A form of thuggery run by people known as the construction Mafia is holding the country to ransom. Last month, it was reported that the city of Cape Town is at risk of losing almost 60 million rand in unspent budget because extortionists are delaying several transport infrastructure construction projects. This week's report reveals that a 38 million rand Kwa-Zulu Natal school in Umlazi is now a year behind schedule because of disruptions by the construction Mafia. The MEC of Public Works and Human Settlements in Kwa-Zulu Natal, Sipho, Nkosi, has reportedly said the city should negotiate with this mafia before law enforcement agencies get involved. Black Business Council CEO Kganki Matabane joins us now to talk about this and says the lack of political will has resulted in this out-of-control situation. Good to have you. Thanks very, very much for joining us here on Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne and the viewers, and thank you very much for having us.
Let's perhaps get a little bit of background on this. I mean, construction mafia, it's a term that we hear about, and in fact, we see it around us sometimes with the state of firstly, corruption and construction in the country. So when did this phenomenon actually start gripping the country, and what is the modus operandi of these extortionists?
Leanne, what happens around 3-4 years ago, we met with some of these mafias specifically from KZN, and they wanted to meet with us because they wanted to join the Black Business Council. And we engaged with them, and then we refused them joining the Black Business Council because we realized that they are not necessarily a business council. They are a group of people who are taking advantage of construction people and any other company, because now what is happening, if you go to the Rustenburg, you go to Beggarsford, you find that people will just come and mine chrome, for example, and mine it for free. So we then engaged with the law enforcement agencies that time, 3-4 years ago, and told them that there's this phenomenon that is growing. If you don't nip it in the bud, it's going to be out of control. Because what then happens, one group goes and get the 30%, and then only their friends benefit. Then there will be a splinter group from that group. That splinter group then will go and form their own mafia, and they get their own percent. Then there's another splinter group because there's unhappiness because they don't all benefit.
Yeah.
And this then continues and continues because no one does anything about it. If for example, the law enforcement agency did something 3-4 years ago about this thing, we won't have it, because you need to introduce some deterrence measures. If they had arrested these people that time, no one will be daring to do the same thing. But because there's no political will, there's no law enforcement agencies taking action, they are multiplying on a daily basis. And it has come to this stage where they're almost untouchables. But these people are known. It's not like a secret.
Yeah,
they are known because they are organized. So we don't understand why, because they are known, they are not infiltrated by law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading, just so much work that's been done into it. And as you say, people know who they are. And it appears that there is so much underhanded business going on that nobody wants to intervene. And that, where there's suspicion that the police are very much so involved in this as well. Perhaps you want to talk to us about your views on this and the speculation that's doing the round, that there doesn't appear to be political will to want to end this.
Yes, definitely there's no political will. We engaged with the Minister of Police even last week at our summit. And we raised this issue again to say, but if you don't take action, people will then feel like they can take chances. And unfortunately, this is affecting the country in a big way, where a lot of companies are saying, but you can't invest in South Africa because there's no security of tenure. You get to your side, and then there are people who come brandishing guns, and you try to hire security guards, but it just adds more cost to doing business. So small businesses, for example, who are building like the 30 million schools and 100 million schools, those are mainly small businesses. They can't afford to, because they've already costed the project, they cannot afford to increase the cost, because if they do that, they won't be able to finish the project. So this is affecting both big and small businesses, and because it's out of hand, and if you sort of refuse to entertain them and give them something, they bring guns at your home and threaten you. So most of the professionals, including black professionals, are even considering leaving the country because they don't feel safe. So we're going to lose the very same skills that we need to rebuild our country.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose the very same investment that we're thinking of getting. So, for example, if you want to open a mine in Beggarsford, for example, you're going to think twice, because these people are just going to come with graders, yellow machine, and they want to mine the chrome there for free. And they are known, as I said, because they have big parties. You'll see so there'll be some people who just mushroom and driving these expensive cars, and you don't necessarily even know where their income is coming from. So the law enforcement agencies were appealing to the law enforcement agencies, the Minister of Police, and everyone else involved to take action, because you just need to set an example with 2 or 3 people. The rest of the people will stop.
Yeah. I mean, it's very worrying, because when it's looked into, I mean, these are just some of the kind of things that are happening. And, when they basically say some of the charges that we see happening are extortion, trespassing, intimidation, public violence, damage to property, assault, pointing firearms, the illegal use of firearms, kidnapping, fraud, murder. I mean, these are the things that are going on, and people are petrified. Now, my question here is, I mean, what do you think when you actually listen to the Kwa-Zulu Natal MEC saying that he still wants to negotiate with this thuggish group of people that are terrorizing people's businesses before the government actually gets involved?
Yeah, that is actually surprising and in a way shocking, because this is not a new phenomenon. They've known about this thing for a long time. You can only negotiate if it's a new thing, maybe trying to understand why they are doing this. But as I said, we've met with some of them like 3-4 years ago, so they have known about these people that 3-4 years ago. So I don't think it's time to negotiate. It's time to take action to stop this, so that we get the country to be functional, create the jobs, and then grow the economy. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're quoted as saying that the cost to KwaZulu-Natal is around about 3 billion rand. Then Sihle Zekelana comes out and says the cost to the country is actually 63 billion rand. And this issue of the lack of political will, let me ask you why. Are we seeing that those in authority are gaining from this? I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Who is gaining from this if we know who the suspects are, we know what they're doing, and yet nothing's being done about it, and we want to sit and negotiate with these guys? Who's getting the money here?
Yeah, when we engaged with the Minister of Police last week, he did indicate that there's a percentage of police people who are involved in criminal activities. So our proposal to him was that let's form a special task team, because this is a very, very important issue and it's very, very critical. Let's form a special task team that will then look at this matter, and we get people from different forces of the police, so that they are not going to be easily corruptible, and then attack this using a special force like they do when, for example, there's a serious crime that is taking place, because there are suspicions that these people, because now they've got money, they've made money out of this, they may have bought some of the law enforcement agencies people, they may have bought some politicians. But if you form a special force, there's no way that they're going to penetrate that one.
Sure. I'm reading a report here from the Daily Maverick who spoke to somebody that actually was a witness to what was going on, because obviously now there are private security companies that are actually hired for contractors that do get jobs, and they now have private security around them to try and protect them while they're working. So they go on to say that, you know, the person who owns this said that the guards, the specialist guards, had been shot in the back while guarding technicians. They were working on a cell phone tower. On the day of the shooting, they were hit with multiple weapons late in the afternoon when the site workers were packing up. They were shot in the back. We know their attackers were very active in the area on the day. And the last words they said basically was that, "Get off here, we want this job." That is frightening. That is frightening what's going on here. I mean, how would a government view this? I mean, this is lawbreakers holding the country and our contractors to ransom, which is costing us a lot of money, plus through threats of violence at the expense of service delivery.
Yes, hence our concern, because this is a serious organized crime. It's not like people just wake up and say, no, we're going to attack one factory or one mine or one construction site. It's extremely organized. So the approach should also be organized, and the approach should be driven by government, because the security companies can only do so much, and they will only secure you, for example, when you're at the site. But when you get home, then what happens? So it's important that the government get the political will to basically disrupt the entire industry, because if you don't do that, people are going to flee South Africa, investment is going to leave the country, professionals are going to leave the country because they feel threatened. And it's not only happening in KZN, it's happening around the country, it's happening in all the provinces. So it needs to be stopped, but I don't think the time for negotiations is now. That time has long passed. It's time for action by the state. It's important that the state needs to be seen to be in charge of this situation.
So I know, just quickly wrap this up as we head to news. You have met with the police minister. You did say that, but what more is the business sector doing? I mean, what is the solution? Where do you turn to now? Obviously, we're speaking about it publicly, but what is your next step to try and solve this?
Yeah, we were going to raise it with the president, but we've also said to our members, just make sure that you protect yourself, make sure that you hire more security guards in the meantime. But unfortunately, that is going to increase the cost of doing business, which is on its own is a deterrent to investment.
All right, let's leave it there. The Black Business Council CEO, Kganki Matabane, thank you for talking to us, discussing a very disturbing phenomenon of a group of extortionists known as the construction mafia that's costing South Africa billions of rands. And this is, according to Matabane, has been allowed to fester due to a lack of political will.